This is Warp Tour. Man, Rob's got some catching up here. Another sort of big dump of, well, maybe not even exposition because we don't learn that much, but we do get a lot more hints of things that are probably to come. Pretty much, they're going through the warp, and Steven accidentally sticks his head out, and he sees something else warping. And he's saying, it's there, doesn't anybody believe me, it's there, and we go through the whole North by Northwest thing where nobody believes him, and I hate those stories. I hate stories where it's like, no, it's really there, and nobody believes the person, because it's just like, you know they're gonna come around, they're gonna believe him eventually at some point, so that stuff I didn't get into, but I kind of got it as well. It's like, you know, when Garnet saves him, she's like, no, you're a gem too, we should... You know, just we should treat you as a gem. We should treat you seriously. And again, sort of that interesting hostility that's growing between them. But there's still, it's not super strong because even when Garnet sort of grabs him and brings him back into the warp, you know, she's holding him very much like how a mother holds a kid. You know, I mean, you could grab and sort of be like this or something like that, but she holds him pretty much to the chest, like very much like how a mother would, and talks to him very lovingly too. So it's like, it's not like, oh, they hate each other now, but again, there's definitely that, there's definitely a little bit of that rebelling that's going on. And the big thing is that this ball lands in Steven's, in their house, and it has these like 4 or 5 arms. It's a great design. And there's a bunch of them, and Steven gets thrown in the warp, and a bunch of these things are going with him, and it turns out there's a lot of warps happening, even though they said nothing will be warping, nothing on Earth, anyway, and they should be the only ones that, you know, can see this stuff, or that can warp. And eventually they follow these things, and there's this character named, was it Peridot, I think? Yeah, Peridot, and a wonderful design. I like, she has this hand where the fingers come off, and they form these computer screens, and can do all sorts of cool stuff. It's a wonderful design, and is pretty much, it looks like she was just checking to see if she's just fixing these warps, pretty much, and she says that it's probably been compromised, because it has the sad face sticker from before, and she takes off, and the gems destroy this warp thing, says she's never coming back, she can't come back, they say we can't do this again, and it just stops there. So again, interesting, like what's this all mean? Watching them more and more, I'm not saying they are, but they're acting more like fugitives, like they're on the run. Because before it's like, oh, we're the Guardians and we protect Earth and from the bad things in the galaxy, but everything seems to be mean, everything seems to be bad, and usually in those cases, it's not, oh, everything is evil and only these 3 people are good, it's usually these 3 people are bad, everything else is good, but they're running away from them. So, and again, we don't know much about these gems, we don't know much about this universe, so I'm kind of wondering that would be a really interesting twist on the whole thing. Or it could be like, whatever, Last Airbender, where there's like, it's a world taken over by bad things or something, and they just escaped it, who knows. The fugitive thing would be more interesting, though. And again, I could be reading too deep into this, but Pearl arguing with Steven, I mean, they're really kind of going at it, and again, feels a little bit like a lover's quarrel. Okay, that sounds really bad, because Steven's a little boy, but I don't think it's quite like that, but I think there is something, again, where Pearl probably sees a lot of Rose in him, and maybe they got in arguments or something like that, but it was getting especially heated. You know, I mean, they even say, wow, we've never seen this before, you know, like between the two of them, like really argue this much. So yeah, just, I mean, it's hard to know what else to say about it. It's mostly, I mean, it's set up, which is fine. You know, the whole show's practically set up. A lot of it's just the, why don't you believe me? Because we're us, and we have to justify when you are right, you know, and the good feeling or whatever. Which, you know, it works. I like him kind of floating in space saying, I was right. You know, there is sort of that nice feeling of justification and stuff, but I don't know. These episodes drive me nuts. If the exposition wasn't there in the build-up for the next one, I probably wouldn't find it that interesting. But It is there, and it's really good. It's good build up. We're introduced to this new character. Something hit me. I'm trying to think, because we've seen a couple. We've seen a lot of weird creatures and stuff like that, and we've seen a few more gems. And I'm realizing, like, we haven't seen any men gems, which is interesting. I'm almost wondering if it's like, are just, I mean, the gems all seem to be very much sort of like this very military type group. I'm where it's like, are the men kept out? Are there men? Maybe there's not men. And maybe like, because when Rose gives birth to Steven, it's like, they never done it with a human before, and so she becomes the child, or half of her becomes the child or something like that. They can't both exist. So maybe is that part of how they, give birth, or how they survive? Like, they keep getting passed down to different people or whatever, or maybe there's another way they regenerate or something. So I don't know. It's interesting, because usually it's not something that I think about. Like, I don't usually watch something and be like, oh, where's the women, or where's the men, or whatever. But it's like, yeah, we have never seen a male gem. But we haven't seen that many gems either, so I might be jumping to conclusions. But yeah, that was definitely something I was picking up on. Outside of that, I'm trying to think. It's interesting. We know that, something out there scares them, and there's a good sense of dread in this show. The show does a lot of things right, but something they really get is this dread. Is like, it's all happy-go-lucky and everything, but there's still like, whatever's out there is bad, and you really don't want to piss it off because you will be screwed. You don't even want them to know you exist, because then you'll be screwed. And I find that fascinating. I'm wondering if one of the things they don't want, people knowing they're on Earth or that they're around or whatever, has to deal with the mirror one. I'm blanking on her name again, but her going and talking with somebody. I wonder if that connection has to deal with, again, they just don't want anybody to know they're there. It feels very fugitive-ish, but like I said, I don't know. It'd be an interesting take, and that would sort of explain a little bit more sort of the differences between the Gem and Steven and why they disagree, because Steven thinks they're doing good, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't, who knows. So, again, interesting setup, and I both love and hate episodes like this, because then I get really excited. I want to know more, as a good show should. But then I'm also like, son of a bitch, it's like, that's not enough. I feel like I need more. The last episode was so satisfying in what they gave. And here's these little hints in this episode. And I feel like it wasn't enough. But maybe the next one will fill us in even more. I can't see them just, after she destroys that warp, I can't see them just being like, okay, well, back to a Cat Fingers episode or whatever. I feel like they would have to talk about it. At the very least, Steven would. So yeah, it's I'm really curious where this is going. It leads to a lot of fun questions, and I'm sure you've all seen the show, whatever. But for those who hadn't, either watching it with me or didn't at the time, I mean that's kind of a fun, like, what fan theories could you come up with this? So yeah, that's about it. Like I said, I hate the Why Don't You Believe Me episodes, but at least it built up to something really good, and it still had that real nice sense of dread that this show does really surprisingly well. So that's about it. I will see you at the next one. Later.